This video is powered by BetUS. Every year, the path to the draft starts in Mobile. The Senior Bowl week is one of my favorite weeks of the entire year. Such a huge time for NFL draft prospects and scouting. I'm working hard on putting together my list of Ryan Poles guys from the Senior Bowl, but I did want to quickly recap the game. The actual Senior Bowl game was yesterday. I planned on doing this recap last night, but literally right before the game ended, we hired Eric Bieniemy, and that news took precedent. So this got put on the back burner briefly, but without further ado, I want to quickly just talk about the prospects who had big performances during the actual game. Let's get right into it. Of course, I'm starting in the trenches, and the first guy I want to talk about is USC center Jonah Monheim, who started the game at center and got pushed off the line of scrimmage right away to start the game. He followed that up with some nice downfield blocking later in the drive. I thought Monheim had a big week and a solid game. He's solidified himself as one of the best centers in this draft, and right now probably could still be picked somewhere in the round 3 to 4 range, but he could rise by the time we get to draft day. Meanwhile, North Dakota State left tackle turned center Gray Zabel was dominant all week long. He might not have lost a rep all week in practice, although he did get beat a couple of times in the game. He still put out some awesome tape. My only fear with that guy, honestly, is that he raises his stock all the way to be a first round pick, and I think he was that good this week. He's clearly a day two guy, and I think the potential that he's on the board right now in the second round for the Bears looks pretty promising, and he's a guy that would be a perfect fit in the second round. Two other small school offensive linemen, though, disappointed me during the game. Clay Webb, the guard from Jackson State, and Carson Vinson, the tackle from Alabama A&M. Both guys had good weeks of practice, but they were exposed by the talent on the D line during the game. It doesn't mean they're bad players, but they certainly didn't help their draft stock during the game yesterday. Elsewhere on offense, TCU's receiver Jack Beck was the player of the game. After having an awesome week of practice, he showed up big time in the game, catching a contested pass on a flea flicker and setting up the first score of the game, and then scoring the walk-off touchdown to end the game. This guy is legit. One of the best stories of the week, and really reminds me of my best friend growing up, D-Fade. Shout out to my guy Dwayne. Jaden Higgins and Ollie Gordon both had good games as well. And now that the Senior Bowl is over, we turn our attention to the NFL draft, free agency, and the Super Bowl. But did you know that BetUS has live casino dealers and slots? For all my followers that are interested in that, take advantage of BetUS's amazing 200% sign up bonus up to $5,000. Now, moving on to the defensive side of the ball, my standout from the game was Sai'vion Jones, the pass rusher from LSU. What a performance by that guy. I think he was kind of mad that I left him off my watch list before the game. I'm kidding, but he opened the game up with a sack, beating Gray Zabel right away, and then he continued his good play all the way into the second half. He had some insane reps and was probably the player of the game on defense. And then Junior Tafuna, a defensive tackle from Utah, got a sack and continued his solid week as well. Landon Jackson, Arkansas's pass rushers, is one of the best run defending edges in the country. He had a big time game, including a sack forced fumble. He's a guy who's a lock to go in the second round. Another guy I have to mention, one of my favorites, Princely Umana Malayan, the pass rusher from Ole Miss. He didn't flash as much as I thought he would, but he still came up with a sack. He's another guy who should go in round 2. I love his upside. And then there's a small school guy I have to talk about, Toledo's defensive tackle Darius Alexander. He followed up his great week of practice with a big game. This guy is shooting up draft boards and is probably one of the biggest risers of the week. And I have to mention two more guys because there was just so much talent on this defensive end, and it really came through in the game, even with a lot of the top pass rushers not playing in this one. UCLA pass rusher Olu Oladejo recorded not one but two sacks in this game. Another guy I didn't even talk about this week who was really impressive. Same with David Walker, another pass rusher from Central Arkansas. He's a very explosive small school guy who also had 2 sacks in this game. He beat Clay Webb badly on a rep, and Webb was a guy who generated a lot of buzz during practice this week. To me, it's just clear that the defensive line class in this year's draft is absolutely loaded. And we saw that all week during Senior Bowl practices, and it manifested itself during the game. But I was impressed with how some of the offensive linemen battled back. I think this is a really great draft for what the Bears need, the interior of the trenches on both sides of the ball. My final thoughts on that one, though, was a really fun game. Usually, the bowl games are kind of disappointing, especially after an awesome week of practice with a bunch of stars pulling out and not showing up for the game. But this game was pretty awesome. It was competitive, entertaining, had a bunch of trick plays, including 2 flea flickers, and even ended on a walk-off touchdown pass. Kudos to Jim Nagy and the Senior Bowl staff. I will be releasing a video of the guys I think Ryan Poles will be targeting on day 2 of the NFL draft. Just wanted to give you guys a recap of the game. Thanks again to BetUS for sponsoring today's video. Please remember to hit that like button for me, guys. Stay tuned, and until next time, bear down.